Continuing from the previous episode 497. Chapter 1426, 100 Lives Reincarnation, 9 Change Peak. This space, which was filled with life force, suddenly fluctuated after the person inside the Bodhisattva ancient tree slowly opened his eyes. Everyone looked at the pair of dark black eyes inside the Bodhisattva ancient tree. At that instant, everyone seemed to see an old experienced expression that seemed to have seen through everything in the world. This kind of feeling originated from deep within that person's soul, and it was impossible to replicate. Xiao Yan Gege. Xuan looked at Xiao Yan, who had opened his eyes. Her pretty pupils were filled with joy. This person's eyes really penetrate others. Han Yu's group exchanged glances with each other. They had felt a different feeling from the rest. From their senses, they felt as though their souls had been exposed to Xiao Yan when he had looked at them. This feeling was full of discomfort. The entire place was completely quiet. Everyone's eyes gathered on Xiao Yan, who was still embraced by the Bodhisattva ancient tree. They had only read about those who could train under the Bodhisattva ancient tree in some ancient texts. Hence, they did not know what kind of change one would experience after this training. Xiao Yan, who was under the Bodhisattva ancient tree, had an expression of complete loss in front of the many pairs of eyes. His eyes slowly swept over all of them. Finally, they paused on Xuan group. Those eyes, which were filled with experience and age, began to reveal a familiar glint. Xuan. Xiao Yan slowly opened his mouth. A moment later, a somewhat hoarse voice that contained an aged tone was slowly transmitted from the Bodhisattva ancient tree. The expressions of anyone who heard this voice involuntarily changed. This tone was completely different from Xiao Yan's tone in the past. However, the old and experienced expression that permeated Xiao Yan's eyes was slowly withdrawn after this aged voice sounded. Finally, it completely vanished. The old and experienced expression had totally disappeared, as though it had entered deep into Xiao Yan's soul. No one was able to detect it. Who? Xiao Yan lifted his head after this old and experienced expression vanished. He slowly exhaled a mouthful of an emerald green vapor. Soon after, he stood up from the Bodhisattva ancient tree and slowly stepped forward in front of the eyes of many. A ripple formed on the surface of the Bodhisattva ancient tree when Xiao Yan's body touched it. His body appeared like liquid as it slowly slid through the incomparably hard Bodhisattva ancient tree. I have finally returned. Xiao Yan stretched his lazy waist after walking away from the Bodhisattva ancient tree. His clear laughter caused Xuan group to sigh in relief. Fortunately, this was Xiao Yan's old voice. Xiao Yan Gege. Are you all right? Xuan quickly stepped forward. Her pretty eyes continued to sweep over Xiao Yan as she asked a question. I'm fine. Xiao Yan shook his head. His hand involuntarily touched Xuan smooth black hair as deep feelings flashed across his eyes. In the eyes of others, he seemed to have only spent 1 month within the Bodhisattva ancient tree. However, he understood that his soul had already experienced 100 reincarnations within the Bodhisattva ancient tree. If his mind wasn't strong, he would have gotten lost within those reincarnations. Fortunately, he had gone through the experiences with a firm heart and finally returned. Within a short month, he had experienced too many lives and too many deaths. The danger level was clearly no different than battling with a genuine Do Sheng. Xuan did not dodge as she looked at Xiao Yan's eyes. Although she was unaware of what Xiao Yan had experienced, she was certain of one thing. This 1 month of training was not as easy as what he showed. Since Xiao Yan was unwilling to say more, she would naturally not ask. Thank you. Xiao Yan turned his head. His eyes shifted to the Bodhisattva ancient tree. He cupped his hands together and laughed. Rustle, rustle. The Bodhisattva ancient tree, which did not show any activity for a month, suddenly swayed its body when it heard Xiao Yan's thanks. It emitted a rustling sound, causing everyone to feel amazed. This thing actually possessed an intelligence, but it had been unwilling to bother with them. Your aura, it seems that even I cannot quite see through it? Could you have broken through to the Ban Sheng class? Jiyu Qingyang walked forward and softly asked. His tone contained some disbelief because he realized that he was unable to sense Xiao Yan's aura. This kind of feeling was something that even some elite Ban Sheng in the clan had never given him. How can it be this easy? Xiao Yan shook his head. He was not lying to Jiyu Qingyang. The current him had yet to break through to the Ban Sheng class. He was only a 9th change peak Do Zun. Of course, in 1 month's time he had achieved a level that others could not achieve even with a decade of training. This speed was very shocking, but Xiao Yan understood that the 1 month in the eyes of others had been a century to him. He used 100 years to refine his dou qi and repeatedly compress it. Only then did the dou qi in his body complete the 9th change and reach the true peak of the dou zun class. This kind of speed could not be considered fast. Instead, it was relatively slow. However, Xiao Yan was also very cautious of strength that he had obtained from nothing. Even this strength obtained from the reincarnation training had been repeatedly suppressed by him. He did not dare to allow his strength to soar too much. His ambition was extremely great, and he did not wish to sacrifice his future gains for some little benefits. Jiyu Qingyang was startled when he saw Xiao Yan shake his head. He could only helplessly smile. The current Jiyu Qingyang was unable to see through Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan withdrew his eyes. He suddenly turned to Han Yu, Zhu Feng, and the rest. They all quickly circulated the dou qi within their bodies when they saw Xiao Yan look over. Their eyes were cold as they cautiously stared at him. All of them would attack should Xiao Yan display any unusual actions. A ridicule was lifted on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth when he saw the reactions of those two. If he were to have met these two before entering the Bodhisattva ancient tree, he would have definitely been very afraid of them. But now this fear had completely vanished because the current him was absolutely confident that he could easily control those two in his palm. The surging mighty strength within his body gave Xiao Yan this simple feeling. Han Yu and Zhu Feng involuntarily clenched their fists when they saw the smile on Xiao Yan's face, especially Han Yu. The warm smile that had always been present on his face had paled. A dark expression filled his eyes. He could sense a real danger from the current Xiao Yan. Other than the lunatic within the Han clan, Xiao Yan in front of him was now the second person from the same generation to give him this vague feeling of danger. This brat seems to have turned into a different person after training under the Bodhisattva ancient tree. Zhu Feng's expression was gloomy. If he had known that Xiao Yan would experience such a lucky opportunity, he would not have restrained himself the first time they had met. He would have intervened and killed him, and then the problems now would not have occurred. However, Zhu Feng was unaware that everyone present would still be trapped in an illusion if Xiao Yan had not given his aid to eliminate the negative emotions of the elite Dou Di from the Bodhisattva ancient tree. In the future, they would have all ended up with a fate similar to the Ban Sheng puppets they had met earlier. Buzz buzz. An emerald green glow was suddenly emitted from the Bodhisattva ancient tree while everyone's emotions were churning because of Xiao Yan's transformation. Something seemed to be spat out. Han Yu's group hurriedly withdrew when they saw the Bodhisattva ancient tree move. They had already experienced just how frightening it was. Naturally, they did not dare to slight it. However, a soft muffled sound appeared time and time again from within the Bodhisattva ancient tree while they withdrew as many emerald green light spots were spat out of it. Finally, these light spots remained suspended in the air like flowers scattered by a fairy. Bodhisattva seeds. Everyone was startled when they saw these light spots. Many exclamations were suddenly unleashed from their mouths. They are actually all Bodhisattva seeds. Han Yu's group also looked at the emerald light spots with shock. They never would have imagined that the Bodhisattva ancient tree would spit out over 20 of these Bodhisattva seeds that were incomparably rare in the outside world. Snatch. Most people's eyes reddened after feeling shocked. Many majestic dou qis suddenly surged. After which, they turned into rays of light that wildly grabbed at these green light spots. Xiao Yan merely laughed after seeing the reddened eyes of Han Yu's group. He beckoned with his hand and those green light spots seemed to have been summoned. They emitted a swoosh sound as they dodged the hands of those trying to grab them. All of them gathered into Xiao Yan's hand after a couple of flashes. Thank you for your gift, brother Bodhisattva. Xiao Yan turned his head and smiled to the Bodhisattva ancient tree after grabbing these Bodhisattva seeds. After which, he flicked his finger. A couple of Bodhisattva ancient seeds in his hands shot out and appeared in front of Xuan Kai Lin, Jiyu Qingyang, and the rest of the members of his group. Brother Xiao, thanks. Jiyu Qingyang, Jiyu Xing, and the few others looked at the Bodhisattva seeds in front of them with heated eyes. They unceremoniously grabbed them before cupping their hands to thank Xiao Yan. Haha, it's nothing. Xiao Yan smiled and shook his head. He looked at the group of red-eyed people before flicking his finger once again. A couple of bodhisattva seed flew out and stopped in front of a few neutral experts. Xiao Yan's sudden actions caused the few experts to be startled. They hurriedly grabbed the bodhisattva seed in front of them as a grateful expression surfaced in their eyes. They swiftly moved aside. They were well aware that Xiao Yan did not wish for them to get involved in the subsequent matters. Han Yu's and Zhu Feng's groups were looking at Xiao Yan, who was distributing the bodhisattva seeds, with a gloomy expression. A red glow flickered in their eyes. "Bastard, you are asking to die." Zhu Feng was finally unable to control the fury in his heart as the red light in his eyes became denser. A furious cry that was filled with murderous intent echoed around this space. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 498. Chapter 1427. Absolute Suppression. Xiao Yan turned his head slowly after hearing Zhu Feng's furious cry that was filled with murderous intent. His cold eyes were just like a ferocious beast as they stared at Zhu Feng. Zhu Feng suddenly felt a chill on his skin as Xiao Yan looked at him. Only then did he recover some of his coolness. His expression continued to remain quite gloomy and cold. His eyes did not give in and stared continuously at Xiao Yan while he spoke in a dense voice. "We have entered the Bodhisattva ancient tree together and experienced so many obstacles. Yet, you are now planning to take all the Bodhisattva seeds away. Aren't you a little too unreasonable?" Xiao Yan burst out in laughter after hearing this. He said, "Unreasonable? I'm afraid that this is not what you are thinking. You should be thinking of talking with your fist, right?" Xiao Yan clearly understood in his heart that if it was not because his strength deterred Zhu Feng, it was likely that the latter would have attacked and forcefully snatched those bodhisattva seeds. Being reasonable? This was a kind of protection that the weak sought in the face of great strength. The corner of Zhu Feng's eyes twitched a couple of times. A murderous desire that could not be suppressed surged within his heart, but it was fortunate that he retained some rational thoughts and did not immediately attack. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Han Yu. His voice was gloomy as he said, "Brother Han Yu, don't tell me that you are happy that he took all the bodhisattva seeds away, making our effort during this period of time to be worthless, right?" Han Yu's expression was calm. He did not reply. Instead, both of his eyes were flickering with a sinister expression and displayed the dissatisfaction in his heart. Regardless of how calculating he was, he still had difficulty suppressing his fury and desire to kill at this moment. "Xiao Yan, distribute 8 bodhisattva seeds to my Han clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix side to end this matter." Han Yu was quiet for a moment before his icy cold voice was finally emitted. Xiao Yan smiled. He opened his hand and 11 bodhisattva seeds sat in his palm. If he was to give 8 bodhisattva seeds to them, he would only have 3 left. This was not something that Xiao Yan would do. Moreover, these bodhisattva seeds possessed the mysterious effect of raising one's chances of successfully advancing to the Do Shen class, and a seed could be used to refine a bodhisattva pill. This Tier 8 medicinal pill, which could summon a 9-colored pill lightning, could cause many 9-change peak Do Zun experts to go crazy. If he were to give these bodhisattva seeds to them, these two factions might have more people break through to the Do Shen class. Would Xiao Yan not end up creating powerful enemies for no reason? With Xiao Yan's character, he would naturally not do something so foolish. Hence, he gently shook his head and slowly replied, "I refuse." The atmosphere of this place became tense after Xiao Yan's 2 words slowly sounded. A pressure pressed down on everyone's hearts. They knew that the matter today would not end peacefully. Han Yu's expression became volatile after Xiao Yan uttered those 2 words. Han Yu glared at Xiao Yan. A moment later, he slowly nodded and said, "In that case, I can only kill you first." Bang! After Han Yu's last word sounded, the many experts from the Han clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe simultaneously unleashed their Do Qi without any restraint. Their bodies flashed as they surrounded Xiao Yan's group. The expressions of Xun Er's group gradually turned cold when the Han clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe attacked at the same time. They stepped forward and the Do Qi within their bodies began to circulate. "Han Yu, are you really planning on starting a big war between the Jiyu clan and the Han clan?" Jiyu Qingyang coldly cried out. Big war? My Han clan has never been afraid of your Jiyu clan. We have left you in peace for so long to give you all a little more time. Do you really think that my Han clan doesn't dare touch you?" A shady smile was lifted on Han Yu's face when he heard Jiyu Qingyang's cry. His dense eyes shifted back to Xiao Yan as he said, "Your name has recently been circulating around my Han clan." Even 4th Tianzun failed. Back then, I told them we should act decisively if we were going to act at all, but those old fellows were clearly unconcerned. You have only managed to survive now because they didn't care. However, I think that we should end this uncaring stance. A dense black dou qi suddenly surged out of Han Yu's body in all directions after his words sounded. Wave after wave of chilly ripples continued to spread from his body. A solemn expression surged onto the faces of Xuan Er's group when they sensed the majestic ripple that spread from Han Yu's body. This Han Yu could be ranked within the top 3 among the younger generation of the Han clan. Such a person was relatively troublesome to deal with. Leave Xiao Yan to me. Brother Zhu Feng. The others will be blocked by your Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the other experts from the Han clan. Zhu Feng nodded after hearing Han Yu's words. He glanced at Xiao Yan and said, "I wish to face this brat in battle, but since Brother Han Yu has already spoken, I will leave him to you." Attack! Bang! Murderous desire surged within the eyes of the many experts surrounding Xuan Er's group after Zhu Feng's cold cry sounded. Powerful dou qi pillars whistled toward Xuan Er's group without mercy. HMPH. Faced with the attacks of the many experts from the Han clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, Xuan Er's group let out a cold snort. Their sleeves were swung and those dou qi pillars were annihilated when they were still 10 feet away from their bodies. Although their group was smaller than the Han clan and the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, their quality was a little better. Xiao Yan Gege. Why don't you leave Han Yu for me to handle? Xuan Er turned to Xiao Yan as she shattered a dou qi pillar that was rushing over. There's no need for that. Xiao Yan faintly smiled. Before he had entered the Bodhisattva ancient tree, he would only have been able to obtain victory against Han Yu, who was a 6-change peak dou zun, if he used a fire lotus. Now, Xiao Yan's level and fighting strength completely surpassed Han Yu. What did Han Yu have that allowed him to fight with Xiao Yan? All of you only need to deal with Zhu Feng and the rest. The remaining neutral experts will likely not get involved in this matter after receiving the Bodhisattva seeds. Hence, we should be able to deal with these people despite their large numbers. Xiao Yan glanced at some of the neutral experts who had withdrawn into the distance. These people were quite strong. If they were to aid Han Yu's group, the pressure they would face would increase. If Xiao Yan had not been worried about them joining his enemies, he would have been happy to retain a couple more Bodhisattva seeds. You should be careful. Xuan Er did not insist after hearing his words. She merely nodded. Xiao Yan smiled. He stepped forward and slowly walked out of the circle that the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the Han clan had formed. Those people gave way when he walked out. Only after Xiao Yan exited the circle did they reform the shape around Xuan Er's group. The 2 Shi Ancient God Jade should be in your hands, right? A black glint flashed within Han Yu's eyes. He questioned as he watched Xiao Yan slowly walk forward and stop a short distance away. You want it? Come take it. Xiao Yan laughed. Han Yu narrowed his eyes. A dark and cold expression suddenly surfaced on his pale jade-like face. Xiao Yan's smiling face caused a desire to kill to surge within his heart. Razor-tongue brat, Han Yu coldly laughed. Xiao Yan smiled as he looked at Han Yu in front of him. He said, "Stop playing these games. They are useless in front of me." Xiao Yan suddenly swung his fist toward the empty space to his left after his words sounded. A hot wind formed on his fist as an intense fluctuation immediately formed in that space. After which, a figure staggered out of thin air and miserably flew back. That person was surprisingly Han Yu. Han Yu's face turned gloomy after being forced back by Xiao Yan's punch. He glanced at the after image that gradually paled. It was unexpected that Xiao Yan's senses were so sharp. Xiao Yan glanced at Han Yu's gloomy face. He glanced at the chaotic battle a short distance away before shaking his head. Without delaying any longer, he took a step forward, and an incomparably vast and mighty aura suddenly surged out of his body in all directions. This aura swept over the entire space the moment it appeared. Some of the weaker individuals vaguely felt a pressure. 9-change peak dou zun? The expressions of those neutral experts in the distance suddenly changed when they sensed the great strength of this aura. Their faces revealed their shock as they looked at Xiao Yan. All of them were certain that Xiao Yan had not possessed this strength 1 month ago. Han Yu's face twitched at this moment. His expression had become extremely ugly. Only at this moment did he understand why Xiao Yan was unafraid of him. The answer was because Xiao Yan's strength had already far surpassed his. So what if your strength is at the 9th change of a peak Dozun? Do you think that I am afraid of you? Han Yu inhaled a deep breath of air. He suppressed the shock in his heart as the seal formed by his hands changed. A clan tattoo slowly appeared on his brow. His aura suddenly soared when this clan tattoo appeared. His aura approached Xiao Yan's level in the blink of an eye. 8 change, huh? Unfortunately, this is still insufficient. Xiao Yan smiled and shook his head upon sensing Han Yu's aura. We will know whether it is enough after exchanging blows. Han Yu coldly laughed. His hand seal changed, and he formed many complicated seals. The cold Do Qi within his body formed a frightening black palm in front of him with lightning-like speed. Sharp, miserable cries continued to be emitted from the palm. There was a savage-looking face vaguely visible on it. Soul Destruction Palm. Han Yu let out a furious shout after the miserable cries from the palm became intense. That dark black palm quickly rushed toward Xiao Yan with lightning-like speed. The dark black palm was not very large, but it contained an extremely dark, cold, and powerful Do Qi. Han Yu understood that he would end up losing if he did not use all his strength against the much stronger Xiao Yan. I have said, it is insufficient. Xiao Yan continued to slowly shake his head even as Han Yu's powerful palm continued toward him. After which, he took 2 gentle steps forward and appeared in front of Han Yu's palm. Han Yu looked on with shocked eyes as a hot flame suddenly surged out of Xiao Yan's right hand. Finally, it gently slammed into the dark black palm. Crack! A stalemate lasted for an instant as the two collided. After which, everyone watching was stunned to see that the dark black palm, which had gathered most of Han Yu's Do Qi, was easily burst apart by a random strike of Xiao Yan's hand. This strength absolutely suppressed the attack since it came from a completely different level. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 499. Chapter 1428, Rupturing Space, Bang. The black palm burst apart in front of everyone's eyes and turned into nothing. How is this possible? Shock surged from Han Yu's heart when he saw Xiao Yan randomly scatter his soul destruction palm. He looked at the figure in front of him in disbelief. He was well aware of the strength of the soul destruction palm. An ordinary 9-change peak Dozun expert would not be able to receive it, much less head-on, because the palm contained a dark chilling energy that eroded one's soul, yet his powerful palm was insignificant to Xiao Yan. Do the members of the Han clan only possess such tricks? Xiao Yan's figure walked through the air. He looked down at Han Yu, who wore an ugly expression, and laughed. Xiao Yan, you should not be too arrogant. Han Yu's expression was a dangerous dark as he stared at Xiao Yan. His heart was filled with dissatisfaction. He clearly understood that Xiao Yan would not have been a match for him if Xiao Yan had not trained for 1 month within the Bodhisattva ancient tree, but none of the many possible situations that could have occurred were reality. Haha, Xiao Yan smiled when he heard Han Yu's dark and chilly cry. Xiao Yan's hand was suddenly swung and a large cluster of hot flames erupted from his sleeve. After which, the flames formed a 1,000-foot large fire hand that grabbed at Han Yu with lightning-like speed. Han Yun clenched his teeth in dissatisfaction when he saw Xiao Yan attack. Black fog surged from his body before turning into many ferocious black fog beasts. They wildly cried out as they pounced toward the large fire hand. Bang bang! The large fire hand slammed toward these black beasts. When the ferocious black fog beasts collided with hand, they were all blasted into smoke in an instant. After which, they were vaporized by the frighteningly high temperature. How stubborn! Xiao Yan faintly smiled upon seeing this outcome. He waved his sleeve and the large fire hand suddenly flashed. It was above Han Yu's head when it next appeared before it was ruthlessly slammed down. Bang! The large fire hand smashed into Han Yu's body since he could not dodge it. The black fog that lingered over his body scattered as a hot and powerful wind poured into it through all his pores. Grug! The Do Qi within Han Yu's body did not have time to form a defense against this extremely hot and wild wind. As his body was being forcefully torn apart by that unusual heat, more wind entered it like poisonous snakes. His expression paled as a mouthful of bright red fresh blood was spat out. His body also shot backwards and landed on the ground. Hiss! The group of neutral experts in the distance gently inhaled a breath of cool air as they watched Xiao Yan severely injure Han Yu with just a palm strike. Their hearts rejoiced since they had not greedily intervened earlier. Otherwise, they would have been left even more miserable than Han Yu. After sending Han Yu flying with a palm, Xiao Yan glanced at the chaotic battleground a short distance away. He let out a cold laugh as his hand launched toward the battle. A couple of punches were thrown into the air and a frightening wind penetrated empty space before smashing into the bodies of a couple of Han clans and Heaven Demon Phoenix Tribe's experts. A powerful strength caused those people to spit out blood and fly back. This unexpected change caused Zhu Feng's group to start. They hurriedly shifted their eyes and saw Han Yu lying on the ground with an unknown fate. Their expressions underwent a drastic change. Han Yu has actually been finished off this quickly? A monstrous wave of turmoil rose within Zhu Feng's heart. Even he was unable to defeat Han Yu within such a short period of time, yet Han Yu appeared like a dead dog within less than 10 minutes in Xiao Yan's hands. Are you planning to fight personally? Xiao Yan's eyes shot toward Zhu Feng. His faint voice caused Zhu Feng's hand to tremble. Zhu Feng's face was volatile, but he ultimately did not say anything. Han Yun was defeated so miserably, even less needed to be said of him. The situation today is hopeless. This brat has already become very strong. Only those grand elders within the tribe can finish him off. Zhu Feng's eyes flickered. Finally, he swallowed the fury and murderous intent within his heart. Revealing any intention to kill at this moment would only result in a fate similar to Han Yu. Xiao Yan glanced at Han Yu in the distance, who was struggling to climb to his feet. After suppressing everyone with his words, a murderous desire surged within his heart. He and the Han clan were enemies who would not rest until the other party died. This Han Yu was one of the most outstanding individuals among the younger generation of the Han clan. If he could kill him, even the Han clan would feel some pain. Since this was the case, he could not let the people from the Han clan off no matter what. Rustle. While Xiao Yan had made up his mind to retain Han Yu's group in this place forever, the Bodhisattva ancient tree, which had been standing quietly in the middle of this space, suddenly emitted a rustling sound before wave after wave of ripples began to appear. Is this realm about to collapse? Xiao Yan was startled after seeing these ripples form. He immediately knit his brows. The Bodhisattva ancient tree would not continue to exist in the world forever. After it had spat out its Bodhisattva seeds, it would once again sink into the land and rest. It would only break out of the land after gathering its energy, but no one knew when that would be. The unusual change caused everyone to panic. The battlegrounds also quickly scattered as the Han clan members quickly lifted Han Yu up. After which, they clustered together with the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Their eyes were cautious as they glanced between Xiao Yan and the surrounding space. Brother Han Yu, are you all right? Zhu Feng glanced at the pale-looking Han Yu and softly inquired. Han Yu wiped off the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. He slowly shook his head as his eyes ruthlessly glared at Xiao Yan. A moment later, his lips trembled. Zhu Feng's body stiffened before he clenched his teeth and nodded his head. Rustle. The spatial fluctuation became more intense as everyone pulled back. Suddenly, a crack line appeared and a glaring light pillar shot out from it. Crack. After the first crack appeared, an increasing number of spatial slices continued to surface. Within a short few minutes, the extremely solid space had gained thousands of holes. Finally, it exploded in front of everyone's panicked eyes. The deepest part of the ancient wasteland region, an enormous Bodhisattva ancient tree stood alone within this grassland. Majestic and refreshing air continued to spread from it in all directions, revealing a spectacular scene. A couple of figures sat a short distance away from the Bodhisattva ancient tree. They were Nalin Yanren and the rest who had been left behind. There were also some other experts who had charged through the beast tide. Everyone present had fully healed from their injuries, but they were unwilling to simply leave. Hence, they continued to stand guard. Rustle. A rustling sound suddenly appeared within the quiet grassy plains. The Bodhisattva ancient tree in the middle of the field had not moved for a month, but all of a sudden, it began to unleash a glaring emerald light. Soon after, many miserable figures escaped this light and landed on the surrounding ground. Teacher? This sudden scene caused everyone to be startled. A wild joy rose as Nalin Yanran's group hurriedly stood up. Their eyes were happily looking at a figure a short distance away. We have finally exited. Ji Qing Yang's group inhaled a deep breath of the fresh grassland air. They felt an elation from having survived a calamity. How could an outsider imagine the kind of danger they had experienced during this short 1 month? That frightening illusion would still remain in their minds after a long time. Xiao Yan gently exhaled. His transformation had been the greatest during this 1 month. While it had only been a month in the eyes of others, he had experienced 100 reincarnations. The reincarnation training might not have allowed his strength to truly soar, but it had unknowingly left behind something that could influence. Rustle, rustle. The Bodhisattva ancient tree began to tremble after the last person was tossed out. A circular light was unleashed from beneath the Bodhisattva ancient tree. The ground seemed to turn into liquid because of this light, and the Bodhisattva ancient tree slowly entered the earth through this liquid. The expressions of many people changed upon seeing the Bodhisattva ancient tree enter the ground. Their hearts were filled with dissatisfaction. Even an elite Do Sheng would not be able to find the Bodhisattva ancient tree once it went underground. In other words, the next time one could see the Bodhisattva ancient tree would be when it appeared in the world again. Perhaps thousands of years would already have passed by then. Oh, unfortunately, we did not find the Bodhisattva heart. Ji Qing Yang softly sighed and lamented somewhat regretfully as he watched the Bodhisattva ancient tree slowly sink into the ground. Xiao Yan, who had heard these words, sort of smiled. His hand gently rubbed the spot of his chest where a pounding emerald-like crystal-clear heart now resided. This was the legendary Bodhisattva heart, but Xiao Yan had yet to refine it. Once he truly refined it, he would be able to step into the Do Sheng class. Brother Bodhisattva, thank you very much. Hopefully, we will be able to meet again in the future. Xiao Yan softly muttered as watched the Bodhisattva ancient tree sink deeper underground. His heart felt some regret. This Bodhisattva ancient tree did not possess a true intelligence. Otherwise, it would have been a genuine expert within the Do Chi continent. If he could have befriended it, the aid it would have provided would have been incredible. Bang! The Bodhisattva ancient tree finally sank into ground in front of many pairs of eyes. After the final trace of emerald light disappeared, these grassy plains once again became empty. Xiao Yan softly sighed in his heart as he watched the Bodhisattva ancient tree completely disappear. He was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. The space around him had suddenly become extremely distorted. It was like a prison had sealed them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 500. Chapter 1429. Second Tianzun, Saint Guu, Bones, TL. The Guu mentioned is related to the word for bones and is not related to the Guu clan. The intense distortion of space sealed this entire area. Any spatial fluctuation was unable to seep out of it. Xiao Yan's expression was dark and cold as he turned his head. He looked in the direction of the origin of this spatial fluctuation and saw an enormous heaven phoenix illusory figure roaming the sky behind Zhu Feng. The entire sky was enshrouded by this illusory heaven phoenix. The spatial ripple from before had come from its body. Looks like the next tribe head of the heaven demon Phoenix tribe is going to be someone else. Zhu Feng's heart trembled when he saw Xiao Yan's dark and dense gaze sweep over. Zhu Feng immediately cried out in a deep voice, "Han Yu, why aren't you acting?" A cold smile surfaced on Han Yu's face when he heard Zhu Feng's cry. He clenched his hand and a scroll appeared in his palm, A, B, C. Subsequently, he shattered it. An intense spatial fluctuation swept out of the scroll after it was shattered. This spatial force was transferred to Zhu Feng's body. Agglomerate. Zhu Feng's hand suddenly slid across the empty space in front of him after he took on this intense spatial force. A spatial tear spread before it formed a black hole in that space. A monstrous aura swept apart like a storm from that spot. Everyone present revealed a sudden change in their expression upon sensing the monstrous aura that spread apart. They exclaimed, "An elite Ban Sheng?" Xiao Yan's expression was solemn. These damn people had yet to give up. They were planning on summoning the experts from their clan over. We must not allow them to succeed. A cold glint flickered within Xiao Yan's eyes. He waved his hand and a flame surged out of his sleeve. It turned into a ferocious fire beast that rushed toward the spatial crack with lightning-like speed. Kai! The fire beast appeared in front of the spatial tear while emitting a high temperature, but before it could explode, a dense white bone-like hand was suddenly extended from the spatial crack. It grabbed the flame and a black fog surged. The flame was eroded into nothing. Cough cough, Hun Yu. It is unexpected that even you cannot finish off the brat from the Shao clan. A coughing elderly voice was slowly emitted from the spatial crack after the white shriveled hand had extended out. After which, a grayish-white clothed old man slowly stepped out of the crack and appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This elder's figure was extremely crooked. His hand held a skeleton walking stick. Both of his eyes were deep as a serene green glow were emitted from the both of them. He gave one an extremely sinister and strange feeling. An accident occurred. Otherwise, I would not have used this spatial scroll. Hun Yu frowned after hearing the old man's words. After which, he looked at Xiao Yan and said, he trained for a month beneath the Bodhisattva ancient tree and his strength has soared to the 9th stage of the peak Tianzun class. Moreover, he still has some Bodhisattva seeds in his hand. Elder Gu, you must intervene in order to retain him. Oh, that old man called Elder Gu was slightly startled upon hearing this. His eyes, which contained a green glow, landed on Xiao Yan. A strange smile surfaced on his shriveled face. It is unexpected that this brat has come across such luck. Xiao Yan frowned when faced with Gu's observing eyes. He slowly exhaled. It seemed that he was finally going to fight a genuine Ban Sheng today. These bastards have summoned an expert from their clan. Gu Hua furiously cried when he saw who had arrived. Gu Qingyang's expression was also relatively gloomy. He clenched his hand and a scroll appeared in it. Finally, he shattered it, but he was stunned to find that no spatial fluctuations had appeared despite having shattered the spatial scroll. It's pointless. The space here has already been sealed by the Heaven Phoenix illusory figure summoned by Zhu Feng. Without his permission, spatial fluctuations cannot be transmitted out. Xuan'er slowly shook her head and softly remarked. There is also some members of the younger generation from the Gu clan. Gu's eyes slid away from Xiao Yan. He looked at Xuan'er's group and laughed. Elder Gu, don't waste time with them. The situation might change if things are delayed. We should first capture Xiao Yan. Hun Yu spoke in a deep voice. It is not easy for these old bones of mine to come out here. You should stop pressing me. Gu involuntarily shook his head when he heard Hun Yu's urging. Although he spoke like this, he lifted the walking stick in his hand and slowly stepped through the air. A couple of after images materialized as he appeared a short distance from Xiao Yan. That skeleton-like face revealed an extremely ferocious smile as he said, it is unexpected that the Shao clan can produce someone like you after having exhausted its bloodline. How unexpected. Quite a number of experts from our Hun clan have died in your hands. Your name is quite well known around our Hun clan. Xiao Yan was without expression. He could sense an enormous pressure emanating from Gu. Xiao Yan might be at the 9th change at the peak of the Dozun class, but he was not a true Do Sheng. He was lacking when compared to this Ban Sheng Gu. The old me is known as Gu. Of course, you can also address me as Second Tianzun. Perhaps you might be a little more familiar with the title that I have held for some time. Though, since I have advanced to the Ban Sheng class, I prefer others call me Saint Gu. Gu spoke in a hoarse voice. Second Tianzun. Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched. This old fellow was actually the second Tianzun of the Hall of Souls. It was really the case of those at the front being the strongest when it came to these so-called Tianans. He wondered just how strong the first Tianzun was? Perhaps he was a true elite Ban Sheng. If this was the case, calling him first Tiansheng would perhaps be more appropriate. Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily sank when he thought about the first Tianzun. The strength of this Hun clan was indeed extremely great and unfathomable. If one did not possess the strength of a Do Sheng, it would be difficult to protect oneself while fighting with them. Once this matter is over, I will immediately refine the Bodhisattva heart. Only by advancing to the Ban Sheng class will I not need to be afraid of the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yan clenched his fist. Ever since he had been a Do J back then, he had been utilizing the laziness of the Hall of Souls in order to raise his strength. Only after he had raised his strength, would he be able to survive clashing against the stronger experts the Hall of Souls dispatched. It was now time for him to take the initiative. Alright, the introduction is over. It has been a long time since I have spoken so much. Young fellow from the Shao clan, are you going to return with me to the Han clan or shall we fight? Ji Yu softly coughed and asked a question as his green eyes bore down on Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's expression was icy cold. His body shook and a pair of green-red bone wings spread behind him. The eyes of the members from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe twitched when they saw these bone wings appear. They could sense a familiar feeling from them. Xuan can you block him for a while? Xiao Yan turned his head and asked Xuan a question in a deep voice. Xuan slowly nodded. Her lovely body moved as she appeared in front of Xiao Yan. A colorful clan tattoo quickly appeared on her smooth forehead. At the same time, Xuan aura abruptly surged as a golden flame filled both of her eyes. Be careful, Xiao Yan softly cried out. After which, his body pulled back. He waved his hand and 5 clusters of flames appeared in front of him. It seemed that Xiao Yan understood that he needed to unleash his strongest attack if he wished to truly defeat this Ji Yu. Are you going to merge heavenly flames again? Ji Yu's shriveled face unnoticeably twitched when he saw Xiao Yan pull back. He had heard about Xiao Yan's ability to merge heavenly flames from some members of the Han clan. It was precisely because of this merger that those experts from the Han clan had ended up returning in failure. This elderly self is really curious to learn whether or not the strength of this heavenly flame merger of yours is really as frightening as the rumors say. This Ji Yu was a skilled and bold person. His Ban Sheng class strength gave him enough capital to look down on everyone present. Even a Tian class Do skill would have difficulty turning the tide because of this indescribable gap. However, Ji Yu would never have expected those Han clan experts who had fought Xiao Yan back then had also adopted such a mentality. Ji Yu clan's Xuan the owner of a divine bloodline and is rumored to be the person with the most perfect bloodline in the Ji Yu clan. Ji Yu's eyes looked at Xuan a short distance away. A shriveled smile appeared on his face as he said, your potential is quite good, but you are currently no match for me. Ji Yu's last sentence had just sounded when his body strangely disappeared. Xuan expression changed upon seeing him move. Her lovely body suddenly pulled back as her palm, which was surrounded by a golden flame, ruthlessly slammed toward a spot in the air. Her palm was accompanied by a frightening temperature. The space distorted when her palm shot out and a crooked elderly figure appeared. This figure belonged to Saint Ji Yu. Your senses are quite good. No wonder you are the clan member with the greatest potential in the Ji Yu clan. Saint Ji Yu laughed strangely after being forced to appear by Xuan His hand was like a poisonous snake as it strangely rotated. After which, it collided with Xuan palm like lightning. Bang! A frightening wind, which was accompanied by some heat, swept over the sky. Saint Ji Yu's body did not move, but Xuan emitted a muffled groan. Her feet staggered back. Xuan quickly stabilized her body after taking a final step. Her hands were placed together. They appeared like a blooming lotus as they formed many complicated seals. A bright golden flame erupted from Xuan body in all directions as these seals changed. The entire sky seemed to have suddenly been ignited as this golden flame appeared. Looking at the bright flame that had suddenly erupted from Xuan a surprised expression also flashed across Ji Yu's face. His voice reverberated over the sky. Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame, the Ji Yu clan's inherited flame that is ranked 4th on the Heavenly Flame ranking. It is unexpected that a little girl like you was able to subdue it. A. I thought they were jade tokens? B. I'm not certain about this. Sometimes the author mixes them. C. That seems to be the case. The next couple of chapters refer to them as scrolls, but later on they return to being called tokens. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 501. Chapter 1430. Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame. A golden flame lingered above the ground. It appeared to have ignited the sky at this moment. The Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame was ranked 4th on the Heavenly Flame ranking. It was only inferior to the Purifying Demonic Lotus Flame. Although this Heavenly Flame was not as mysterious as the Purifying Demon Lotus Flame, it was renowned during the ancient times. Moreover, this kind of heavenly flame was an inheritance of the Ji Yu clan, but seldom anyone could subdue it. Hence, Saint Ji Yu's heart was a little shaken when he recognized this flame. It is indeed the Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame. Xiao Yan sensed an intense fire fluctuation from the distant sky. His heart shook. He had already guessed this a long time ago, but Xuan seldomly unleashed the Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame. Hence, he had never confirmed his guess. It is indeed worthy of the Jiyu clan to be in possession of a mysterious inheritance like this heavenly flame. Xiao Yan sighed in envy within his heart. The Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame was ranked high on the heavenly flame ranking. This naturally proved its great strength. If one were to talk about its ferocity, even Xiao Yan's newly born heavenly flame, made from the merger of 4 heavenly flames, might not be better than this Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame. After all, the heavenly flames that were ranked near the top of the heavenly flame ranking were unbelievably terrifying. An example was the top 3 heavenly flames. Saying that they possessed the strength to destroy the world was not an exaggeration. A great disaster had befallen the world in ancient times anytime a top heavenly flame erupted. Xiao Yan swiftly focused his mind as this thought lingered within his heart. 4 clusters of heavenly flames swiftly merged together, A, B, C, as waves of violent destructive fluctuations quietly spread. It is rumored that the Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame can burn Do Qi. Its ferocity is well known. Today, this elderly self shall take a look to see if it is as the rumors describe. Jiyu stepped through the air. His green eyes stared at Xuan, who was some distance away, as he spoke in a hoarse voice. Black fog suddenly surged from the skeleton walking stick in his hand after his final word sounded. In the blink of an eye, this black fog permeated the sky. An extremely dark and cold energy hid in this black fog. Hence, it did not scatter despite the high temperature in the sky. Instead, the fog quickly agglomerated into an enormous black skeleton under Jiyu's control. This black skeleton was 10,000 feet tall. It stood in the sky like a divine skeleton of evil. A dense black fog churned out of its body as a chilly pressure swept out. It caused most of the people present to feel as though their very soul was in a chilly pond. The atmosphere was exceptionally gloomy and cold. Darkness Skeleton King. He has summoned this thing the moment he started fighting. It seems that Elder Jiyu is quite afraid of the so-called Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame. Han Yu pondered some thoughts as he observed the enormous black skeleton in the sky. This black skeleton was a rare Tian-class low-grade Do skill. One would be able to use one's Do Qi and the surrounding energy to form a Skeleton King after mastering it. This Skeleton King was as hard as metal and was immune to fire and water. Moreover, each and every part of its body contained an extremely dark and cold energy. If an ordinary expert were to be struck by this darkness, that expert's body might look fine, but their soul would be eroded. Hence, this thing could be considered quite sinister and vicious. With Jiyu's current Ban Sheng strength, the black skeleton that he had summoned after unleashing this Do skill with all his strength was frighteningly powerful. Even some experts who had reached the Ban Sheng class had to be cautious when facing this big thing. Thus, one could tell how troublesome the Black Skeleton King was. Go! Jiyu pointed the skeleton walking stick at Xuan from afar after summoning the enormous black skeleton. 2 clusters of green light immediately appeared. He took a step across the sky and appeared a short distance in front of Xuan. The skeleton's palm, which was covered with a dark black fog, easily tore through space and ruthlessly slammed toward Xuan head. Xuan did not dare to slight the skeleton's ferocious and shockingly powerful attack. Her lovely figure swiftly pulled back. At the same time, a 100-foot large golden flame cluster suddenly surged out of her body. It ruthlessly collided with the black skeleton's hand. Sizzle, sizzle! A sharp sizzling sound erupted when the two collided. An extreme cold and an extreme heat intertwined with each other. A nauseating white fog rose and spread. Bang! Jiyu's shriveled hand was clenched as he stood far away. That enormous skeleton's hand was also clenched. One could hear a crack sound as the golden flame was shattered. Xuan bunched her eyebrows together after her retaliation attack was easily destroyed. An elite Ban Sheng was indeed very powerful. Even though she possessed the aid of the Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly flame, she was only able to protect herself. Fortunately, Xuan task was not to defeat Jiyu. Instead, her aim was to delay him. Gold Emperor incinerating heavenly formation. Xuan's delicate body swiftly pulled back. Her hand formed many mysterious seals. After her cool cry sounded, the golden flame that lingered in the sky suddenly began to wiggle. A dozen plus golden fire pillars shot down from the sky. The fire pillars spread and merged with each other. It appeared like fishing net made of fire that connected the sky and the land, trapping the enormous black skeleton in the process. Bang! The black skeleton's fist, which contained a dark and chilly fog, ruthlessly slammed into the fire curtain. An earth-shaking sound appeared as many ripples formed on the fire curtain. Refine. Xuan'er's face was grave. The seal formed by her hand changed as countless golden fire pillars shot out of the formation. They struck the surrounding fire curtain before being reflected. Finally, all of them shot into the enormous skeleton close together. These fire pillars had become even more glaring after being reflected by the fire curtain. The frightening temperature within them caused the air inside of the great formation to ignite. A glaring golden flame fiercely and wildly burned the enormous black skeleton. What a frightening flame! The expressions of most people present changed as they looked at the golden flame that seemed to have spread across every corner of the great formation. Even with the isolation of the large formation, they were still able to sense just how terrifying the temperature was within it. Even an expert at the 9th change peak of the Tianzun class would not be able to endure for more than a minute inside. After all, the Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame was a frightening heavenly flame said to be able to burn even Do Qi. Roar! The black fog around the enormous black skeleton quickly disappeared because of these wildly incinerating golden flames. Some of the bones had even become blurry at this moment. Regardless of how strong Jiu was, it was impossible for him to completely ignore the frightening Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame. It is indeed worthy of being the Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame. Jiu knit his brows when he saw the black skeleton struggling within the fire formation. If Xuan'er did not possess the Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame, she would not have been able to force the darkness skeleton into such a state regardless of the Do Qi she used. Unfortunately, although the Heavenly Flame is powerful, you are unable to unleash its full potential with your strength. It was rumored that the first owner of this legendary Gold Emperor Incinerating Heavenly Flame could burn the realm created by an elite Do Shen into nothing with this flame. Jiu's eyes flickered as his shriveled hands formed a strange seal. At the same time, a strange sound was emitted from his mouth. Roar! The large black skeleton in the sea of golden flames suddenly shook after Jiu's cry sounded. Wave after wave of black fog surged out of its body in all directions. Miserable screeches echoed across the sky. If one were to look carefully, one would discover that the black fog was being formed by an unimaginable number of souls. Bang bang bang! Countless numbers of souls gushed out. They suddenly exploded upon contact with the golden flame. The force from the self-detonation of such a large number of souls caused even the golden sea of fire to blast apart. The moment this occurred, the body of the black skeleton suddenly shrank. In the blink of an eye, it had transformed from 10,000 feet tall to 100 feet tall. Although its body had shrunk, the skeleton had grown even darker. A frighteningly dark and chilly energy slowly spread from the skeleton's body. Tisk tisk. Just watch as I tear apart this fire formation of yours. The skeleton slowly lifted its head. Its jaw moved as it emitted a strange laugh. That laugh was the voice of Jiu. This old man had managed to merge his soul with the skeleton. Xuan'er's expression was slightly altered after she heard these words. Her pretty eyes slid to where Jiu was located earlier. An elderly figure was standing at that spot, but both of the elderly figure's eyes appeared vacant. Clearly, the figure was only an empty shell. The words of the black skeleton had just sounded when it flashed and appeared at the edge of the fire formation. Its palm, which contained a rich black light, gently cut across the fire curtain. A crack line slowly appeared. The relaxed cut clearly indicated that the black skeleton did not need even the slightest obstruction. Boom! The fire formation seemed to have been destroyed after this tear appeared. It let out a boom and exploded in front of many pairs of eyes. Little girl, if you had advanced to the Ban Shen class, it would be difficult to determine just who would win today. Unfortunately, the black skeleton's green eyes stared at Xuan'er while a hoarse voice was slowly emitted. The corner of Xuan'er's mouth was lifted despite hearing this. She softly said, "My intentions were not to defeat you. I have already completed my task." Xuan'er's delicate figure quickly withdrew after she spoke. She appeared behind Xiaoyan in a flash. At this moment, there was an exquisite artistic-looking fire lotus slowly rotating in his palm. An annihilation aura slowly spread, causing the surrounding space to distort. A hoarse voice was slowly emitted from the black skeleton as it looked at the fire lotus in Xiaoyan's hand. Is this the thing that you create after merging heavenly flames? I have given you so much time. Hopefully, you will not disappoint me. A. It was 5 clusters last chapter. B. Green core flame, fallen heart flame, bone chilling flame, 10,000 burning flame. Not sure if the 5th was some other flame he added in before. C. I think at this point it was the fake heavenly flame that he was using to make the lotus a little stronger. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.